The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. Yeah!
Hi, and welcome to the Pool Guy Podcast Show. I did a series of podcast recording with Bob Lowry. Bob Lowry, if you don't know who he is an industry icon who is a chemist who created over 100 different chemicals. He's written over 20 different books on pool water chemistry. And in this series of podcasts, we're going to cover different subjects regarding pool and spa water chemistry. So if you're a pool pro or a homeowner, you're going to definitely benefit from listening to these podcasts. First off, I want to give Bob Lowry's website to you so you can find his material easily as you listen to the podcast. So there are 3 ways you can find the resources by Bob Lowry. You can go to a website called lowrycg.com. That's LOWRYCG.com. And if you feel up to it, you can actually type in his direct URL, which is poolchemistrytraininginstitute.com. It's kind of a long URL, but it's poolchemistrytraininginstitute.com. You can also go to my website, swimmingpoollearning.com. Scroll over to where it says resources. Scroll down where it says certified residential, and this will take you to Bob Lowry's resources. So each one of these podcasts will cover a different subject, and I hope you tune into all these podcasts so you can learn more about pool and spa water chemistry and also about the certification course that Bob Lowry offers. Leslie's Pool Supplies is a proud partner of the Pool Guy Podcast Show. Leslie's Pool Supplies has been do-it-yourselfers and pool trade professionals' trusted partner since 1963, providing quality products and services to make pool care easy and solutions and expertise to do it right. I'm joined today by Bob Lowry, and if you don't know who Bob Lowry is, he's probably the premier expert on chemistry in the industry, and he has 16 books or so or more, and he runs a training course, and he'll tell you more about it himself. How are you doing today, Bob?
Doing great. I'm glad to be here. I'm talking to you today from Lima, Peru, which is where I live.
Yeah, great.
Lived here for 10 years, and but I still do all of my consulting and all of my business in the U.S. and primarily for service techs, but a little bit for retail store and homeowners.
Yes, you want to give the listeners a little bit about your background in the industry?
Well, I got in the industry in 1973, so this is my 47th year in the industry. And my background is that I am a chemist. I have 2 degrees in chemistry, and joined the industry in 73 with a company called Robarb, and we made chemicals in Georgia. In 77, I moved to California and started Leisure Time Chemical, and a partner and I owned that until 1985, and we sold the company for a few million, well, more than that. But anyway, we sold it, and I retired for about 3 weeks, and I started Service Industry News for service techs, and owned that with David Dickman for about 6 years. And I wrote 120 articles about pool chemistry while I was the writer for Service Industry News. Then I sold it and went to work for Leslie's Swimming Pool Supplies, and I was their technical director for 5 years. And then after the Northridge earthquake in 1994, I moved to Atlanta, Georgia, actually up in the mountains of Georgia, and semi-retired up there, and was about as busy as I was when I was still working. So I've been a consultant now for, I think, 25 years, and I'm an independent consultant. So I was also a CPO instructor for 21 years. I helped write the CPO manual. I've written 21 books on pool chemistry, and I've written about 175 articles. I've written a column for Pool and Spa News for 2 years, and I've been giving back education to this industry since I got into it, and practically every trade show and expo that's around, I used to be at all of them, giving seminars and classes and things like that. 2 years ago, I started the Pool Chemistry Training Institute, and we are the only organization that actually certifies people in pool chemistry. But it is for residential pools, so as not to be confused with a CPO program. CPO program is about pool operation, and our course is about pool chemistry. And all of it could be used in both kinds of pools, frankly, but our oxidation and disinfection section is for residential pools, not for commercial pools. But all the rest of the chemistry is the same. And I wrote a new book for the course, and the book is called Pool Chemistry for Residential Pools. And you may have seen that I wrote the 2 training manuals for IPSA. And I took the best of those 2 books, in addition to some newer information, and put it into the new book. And the new book also was in color. And so I wrote the book for that. And then I also wrote a new method on how to take care of a pool if you're a service tech. And it's in a book that's only 28 pages long, called The Pool Chemistry for Service Pros. And it's a method of taking care of a pool. And we have now distributed more than 12,000 copies of that book to service techs. And they're following it and having great success with their pools, better water quality, spending less money on chlorine, having less algae, and knowing more what they're doing with the pool. So it's been a really great thing.
That's awesome. And I know that your background takes you in a lot of different arenas out there. Mainly, I think your chemistry background is one of the things that people will know you by. And I think one of the subjects we're going to talk about right now is why is balancing your pool and spa so important? So you see a lot of old timers out there carrying the phenol red and the OTO, and they just drop it in the pool, or they'll dip a test strip in and look at it, and they figure they're done. So why is it actually important to balance the pool correctly, get the range of the chemistry? Is there a good reason for that?
Well, there really is. The closer you can get to balancing the water, the more stable the pool is going to be. The idea of taking care of a pool for most service techs is to make it stable so nothing changes from week to week to week, or if there are changes, there's only small ones, and they're easier to overcome then, or make an adjustment for them that way. And if you're not getting good test information, it makes it difficult to add the right amount of chemical and get the correct balance. And it is important. And I once did a test in a room full of service guys. I put an aquarium in there, and I adjusted the water so I knew what it really was. And I asked 30 guys to come up and do a flash test with their OTO and phenol red, and there was only 2 guys out of 30 that got the right answers. So doing that is a waste of time. And test strips, as I have told people for years, test strips are fine if you just want to know if the water is okay. If you want to know what the exact pH is, what the exact alkalinity is, what the right cyanuric acid level is, you can't do that with a flash test and a test strip. You can't get the right answer. And you need to have those right answers to be able to balance the pool.
Yeah, so you were mentioning the ballpark reading or flash test versus, say, like a photometer or photometer. And you mentioned the fact that you want to have more exact readings. So mainly, I think the difference is the more exact you are, the better you can maintain that pool versus the ballpark. So over time, if you're just doing ballpark test strip readings, that pool can be out of balance. Alkalinity could be 60 or 50, and then the pH could not actually be 7.8. It could be even higher. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, but not only that, you're right. But not only that, but the problem comes from if you're only measuring pH and chlorine, you have no idea what the alkalinity is. And alkalinity is a buffer in the water to prevent the pH from going low, but it also is a if the alkalinity is too high, it keeps pulling the pH up all the time. So you end up with a problem with going back to the pool week after week after week, and you keep adding acid to get the pH back down, and it goes down, but then it goes right back up because your alkalinity is too high. So if you get your alkalinity to the right place, then the pH won't go up so high.
Yeah, and
And
then that
that's
goes. Go ahead.
all right. Go
I
ahead.
was
You
gonna
were going to
say,
mention.
and that also goes in with the fact that a lot of guys aren't doing the LSI calculation either in the pool, so there's no way to know if it's corrosive or scale forming, which is a ballpark reading, right?
That's right. And those are only ballparks. And then when you add things like chlorine generators and stuff to the water, then you have other problems. And chlorine generators, just because of the chemistry of how you make chlorine, they're going to raise the pH of the pool. In addition, an SWG, because of the turbulence inside, it makes chlorine gas and it makes hydrogen gas. And those bubbles come off of the plates in the cell, and it creates turbulence and aeration. And turbulence and aeration makes CO2 gas off. And when CO2 gas is off, the pH goes up. And so those two things cause the pH to go up quite a bit. And you can offset it by using some borates in the water and using lowering the alkalinity and the pH to compensate for it. So you need to know exactly what they are to be able to get to the right compensation point.
Yeah, I think that's extremely important, especially with the saltwater system. And one other thing that we don't talk a lot about in the industry, and all the customers want to run their pool as short as possible because they want to save the electricity cost. I found that even with variable speed pumps, customers don't like having them running, even when I explain to them that they save money by running them. Besides that point, the circulation of the pool, how important is that in the chemistry balance overall?
Well, it really is. And regardless of what the speed of the pump, the first thing you want to do is attain one turnover of water, at least one turnover per day. So regardless how many GPM you've got, you need to get enough water through the pump that equals the volume in the pool. And it doesn't matter whether it takes 3 hours or it takes 24 hours, but you need to get a volume of water that's at least equal to the pool through there. And the other thing to think about, and it's more of a logic thing than anything else, and that is if there's no water movement in the pool, if you get some algae spores or some algae in the pool and it's on the wall of the pool, or even some bacteria, suppose you get a biofilm starting to grow, either in the pipes or on the wall, you've got a stationary organism living. And if some of the chlorine in the water that's near that organism, near that biomass, um, when the chlorine that's in the water works on it, the chlorine gets used. And if there's no water flow, there's no new chlorine coming to where that biomass is. And so it uses up the chlorine that's around it, and then it's not dying from any new chlorine coming to it. So the longer, the more stagnant the water, the faster algae is going to grow, and biofilms and everything else is going to happen in the pool.
Yeah, and so one question I get asked a lot by the service guys also is, how do I know the dosage? Let's say I do all these tests and I get the readings. How would I know how much of something to put into the pool to change the parameters? And of course, you have to kind of know at the beginning how many gallons of water or liters of water in the
Right.
pool to begin with. But from that point, what are some things that they can do to kind of, I know that back in my day, there were some rule of thumbs that we worked off of. I don't know if those are even accurate. You're the expert on it. But when it comes to adjusting chemicals or dosage to get things back in the right parameter, what do you think is the best way to do that?
Well, there's a number of ways, but first of all, we teach in our classes, and I'm an advocate for the fact that the current PHTA guidelines used to be APSP, but the guidelines that we all use are too broad to be able to take care of the water correctly, seriously. And it's the first thing that's in the 28-page book, Pool Chemistry for Service Pros. It says in there that the ranges are so broad that you can be within the minimum and maximum levels, and you can have scalar corrosive water. So doesn't that indicate that we've got a set of standards that's too broad? You know, to me, in my way of thinking, if you're within standards, you shouldn't be able to have a problem in your pool. So one of the very first things that I do is I tell people, forget about those ranges. What we're going to do is set a target up for each water condition in your pool, and it's one number. And then you'll be able to say, you know, using the current standard, for instance, it says the minimum is 7.2 for pH. The ideal is 7.4 to 7.6, and the maximum is 7.8. And then we come along and say, okay, the pH is 7.3. So what is that? It's right between minimum and ideal. So what is it? Is it okay or what? You know, but if I told you that the target pH is 7.5, you instantaneously know what's wrong with the pool if you go out and it's 7.3, right? So that's the idea. We set up a system of targets instead of a bunch of broad ranges. And that way you can't have a problem if you're on target. And it makes it easy to know what to do in the pool, because if you're off of the target by very much, you automatically know that you need to adjust it. And there are tables in the books that I have. There are tables. But one of the things that I did to help service techs is I made an app for your phone that you can buy, and it's a one-time charge of $5.99. And it's called the Pool Chem Dose Calculator. And what you do is you put in the gallons, and then you choose metric or US custom, and then you tell it you decide what you want to do, whether you want to raise chlorine, lower alkalinity, raise alkalinity. You tell it what you want to do, and then how many parts per million you want to do. So if you want to raise alkalinity by 20 parts per million, you put in 15,000 gallons, 20 ppm, raise alkalinity, and it tells you exactly how much of two different chemicals you could put in. If you want to put chlorine in your pool, you put in 15,000 gallons, for instance. You put in, you choose US, you put in raised chlorine, you put in 5 ppm, and it lists 12 kinds of chlorine, the exact amount you need to put in to get 5 parts per million in that pool. So, and it's actually loaded with 38 chemicals. So you can use it for practically anything except for raising and lowering pH and alkalinity. You can use it for raising pH and alkalinity and lowering alkalinity, but the best way to know how to adjust pH and alkalinity is with a brand new app that I have created. It's only been on the, in fact, it is only available for an iPhone right now. It's that new. And in about a week, it'll be available for an Android. And it's called the pH Alkalinity Adjustment Tool. And I gave it that specific name because you can use it to raise or lower pH or alkalinity in any pool for any amount, any pH, any alkalinity. Put it in, it'll tell you what you need to do to get there. And I had an app before that was called the Pool Acid Dose Calculator, but it was only for lowering pH and alkalinity. This one's for raising or lowering pH and alkalinity, and it's right now available for iPhones, but it'll be available shortly for Android. And that is the best way. There's also a formula that you can use for lowering pH and alkalinity, but it's a calculation based on what the alkalinity is now, what you want it to be, and then multiply it times the the number of ounces it takes to reach 10 parts per million and 10,000 gallons. So there's a number of tools that they can use, but the fastest, cheapest, best thing to do is get one of these apps.
Yeah, where can they get the apps at, Bob, if they're
The
interested?
the apps are available on the iStore at the Apple Store, or you buy any other apps, and it's also available for Android phones from Google Play. And so those are the best ways to get the apps.
Got it. And I'll have a link on my website too for them, so they can go there and find those apps easily and click on that, and they can download it to their phone or device. And I think the apps are definitely revolutionizing the industry, because back in my day, you had the Taylor Watergram. That's what I was using.
Yeah,
And I'm pretty good at that thing. I don't use it anymore, but I used to be good at spinning that wheel around. And then they had a little manual that you'd flip through, paper manual that get all wet and
yeah,
have stains from all the
yeah.
reagents. So I'm dating myself, but yeah, that's what I used to use in the old days. And then, of course, the rule of thumbs that we used to always use, the old timers. So, in your opinion, I can transition to this question here. Um, what do you think is the best way to test the water? Now, I've used all different ones. I have photometers. I have the Lamont Spin Touch. I have digital testers from ITS. I have digital testers from Hawk and Lamont. I have reagents from Taylor, and I think I have an old OTO test kit in my garage too that I don't use anymore, but I used to use a long time ago. So what would be the?
I'm going to stop you for one
Mhm.
second, and I can show you this. This is the screen for the app, for the Pool Chemdos app, and you
Mhm.
can see you just put in the gallons and what you want to change, and then the part per million, and then it lists all the chemicals you need to change it, and it
Yeah,
just makes it totally easy to do.
it
And
does.
the other one, the new one that I told you about is this one right here, and that's the screen that tells you how much you need to add to get to the pH or alkalinity, and they're cool little apps that I spent years and years developing, because it's got the kind of math in it that takes years to do.
And that's why
Seriously.
you charge for it too, because it takes time to develop it, and it's something that you should be rewarded
Well, but
for.
it's not a subscription. A lot of guys sell apps and they make a subscription for it. These are not subscriptions. You this one costs $7.99, the other one costs $5.99, and I've got a couple of more apps. But for about 20 or 30 bucks, you can buy all the apps and own them,
Hmm.
and they're yours forever. So it's actually pretty cheap. You spend that when you go out to lunch a couple of times. So
Hmm.
um, they're really good tools, and I highly recommend it. So
Yeah, you can
we were
spend that one
talking
visit to
about,
Starbucks for sure.
yeah, go buy a couple of Starbucks and you're at
Yeah.
30. So at any rate, we're talking about testing, and I believe that you should have a good test kit to get good information. Um, I try not to speak in brands, but there are some good ones out there. And, you need to get one that gives you good, consistent results, but you need to also combine that with some record keeping. And it's really, really important to keep records of what you're doing on a pool. And that's one of the things about flash testing and stuff. Guys that flash test aren't keeping any records. They just go out there and see if the pool's okay this week and okay next week, and they never make any records of anything. And you ask them, they go, "Yeah, well, that pool takes a half a gallon a week," and so on. But they really don't know. And then all of a sudden they get algae, and they don't know why they got algae, because I've been keeping the pool fine, and it's summertime, so I must be getting algae. Well, let me tell you something. If you're taking care of a pool and it gets algae, it's your fault. And you can cover it up any way you want to, but if you're taking care of a pool and you get algae, it's your fault. So you're not doing it right if you're getting algae. So um, I think you need a good test kit, and probably spend a couple $100 on a test kit, one that you are comfortable using. One of the test kits that I was using, I can say names because I guess it's all right. But you know, for many years I used a Taylor test kit. I know most of us have. But as many years as I used a Taylor test kit, I can't tell you right now how many drops you need to put in to do an alkalinity test. You got to put in 2 of these, 5 of these, and then 4 of those or so. I don't know. And I've done those tests hundreds of times. I still can't remember. So I have to read the instructions every time I use it. And that to me is kind of a pain in the neck. So there's another company that made one that's that's called the Color Cube, and it is a photometer. And they made their reagents so that you had 5 drops of everything. So their directions are, take a water sample, add 5 drops of this, and and invert it to mix it up and put it in this machine and push the button. And that to me is a whole lot easier than counting drops and trying to figure things out. Just it's a lot easier and probably more accurate because most of the photometers are more accurate than your eyes. So they can see subtleties in color change when you can't. So I think those are good. I think especially for new guys that aren't used to doing too many tests, perhaps one of the more expensive units like a spin touch is a better solution for them. And they're a little bit more expensive, but they're really accurate. They save all the results. You can put it on your phone. You can put it on your computer. You can add notes about what you added to the pool and so on. And for those kinds of things, I think it takes the operator out of the equation. So you're not, did I add 4 drops or 5? Did I miscount? Am I standing in the shade? I'm looking in the sunlight. I got my glasses on and I got my sunglasses on. Is that affecting my reading? So there's all kinds of those things that are involved. And if you just squirt some water in a disc and put it in a machine, you can't do it wrong. So if and logically too, guys, I talk to them and I say, listen, I know you spent what, 40 or $50,000 on your truck, and you got what, $10,000 worth of tools in the back of it, and then you got to go buy what, a $25 test kit, and you need it for every stop, and you're depending on your whole livelihood on that test kit. That's not that's not a that's not a good thing to do. You need good professional results if you're going to be in this as a profession, make a living from it.
Exactly. Yeah, I couldn't have said it better, Bob. Normally, I would have you give your outro here, but since we're going to record 4 more podcasts here, and we're going to talk about borates in the next one, cyanuric acid, algae, and then metal and staining. So we'll go ahead and just jump into the next ones here. If you want to hold on, and we'll get to the next one going. And then at the end of this podcast, I'm going to give everyone the information they need to find your resources and everything in my little outro. And so each podcast is going to have a description of how to find all the resources that you're offering for them. But I think this was a great introduction of who you are and also a recap of why balancing the pool is important. And it leads into the other things we're going to talk about. Again, the easiest website to find all the material by Bob Lowry, including his certified residential courses, his consulting, and his chemistry apps, is lowrycg.com. That's LOWRYCG.com. And of course, you can visit my website, swimmingpoollearning.com. If you're on the banner, you can click on the podcast icon. And you can scroll down and see the other podcasts I recorded in the series with Bob Lowry. And you can definitely listen to those podcasts also. If you're in the industry and you're just starting out, or if you want to enhance your business, definitely check out my coaching program at poolguycoaching.com. A lot of great benefits for joining there, including a discount on your general liability insurance. You can learn more again at poolguycoaching.com. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Have a great rest of your week, and God bless. Leslie's Pool Supplies has been do-it-yourselfers and pool trade professionals' trusted partner since 1963, providing quality products and services to make pool care easy and solutions and expertise to do it right.